Hey, everybody. This is Ben here, the founder of Wild American, and this is the Wild American Journey. And so, this is my very first podcast. I've never done one before. This is all new to me. So, like I said, we got a nice blank wall for you, great graphics. I'm just kind of figuring this crap out as I go. But yeah, like I said, we'll get better over time. So, just setting up this initial podcast, tell you about myself, tell you about the company, my journey, and where I would like to go. So, first off, what is Wild American? So, I want to create a company that removes the barriers for outdoor adventures. So, if you are somebody that has an unfulfilled yearning for adventure, that's who I'm building Wild American for. And so, what is this going to practically look like? Well, my thoughts are in my current business model. I want to pair adventurers with the right information and the right equipment. So, building out the website, figuring out what that all's going to look like, and want to invite you on the journey with me. As we build this thing. And then specifically on this podcast, as I'm building out Wild American, starting a Wild American journey, and basically what I want to do, I want to interview everyday adventurers and guides and people who've made a life of or incorporated into their life, being outside, going on adventures, fly fishing, rafting, backpacking, hunting, whatever. Those are the people I want to talk to so we can learn from them. To understand, the barriers in the outdoor industry, what's keeping people from getting outside, and how they have practically, conquered those barriers. And so that's kind of, or that's what we'll be talking about on the Wild Journey. And so this is the first episode. I'm actually getting guests lined up for the next episodes. And as we get closer to interviewing those folks, I'll give you little previews on Instagram, YouTube about who they are and what we're going to talk about. All right. So who am I? Who is Ben? And why should people listen to this? So basically, I'm a 40-year-old dude. I have a family, work a corporate day job. In the past few years, got a little bit chunky and fat and out of shape. And I have a burning, unfulfilled yearning for adventure. And I am somebody that wants to incorporate adventure again into my life. I want to mountain climb. I want to backpack. I want to backcountry ski. I want to fly fish. And I want to figure out how to practically get that back into my life. So, with all that being said, let's go back to the beginning, to where it all started. So I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, specifically the Seattle, Bellevue area. And as a kid, I've been skiing since I was 6 years old. So for those of you, familiar with ski acres up at Snoqualmie Pass, that was first place I ever skied. And then I ended up skiing all through elementary school, all through middle school, high school, took lessons, did a whole bunch of dumb stuff on skis, but got really good at it. And to this day is still, one of, are still my favorite sport. So I love the ski. Also did a lot of water skiing growing up. So, and like, my dad and my brother specifically were really in the water skiing where they would compete, things like that, and they got really good. I got okay. I could get up on one ski and go through the slalom course a couple of times, but I was never that good. But I did love it. And each summer we'd have these water ski trips. where we'd go out to different tournaments in the eastern part of the state. But some of my favorite trips were when I was a teenager, and we'd take these houseboat trips, Lake Roosevelt, and a bunch of families would get together to kind of spread out the cost of the houseboat. My dad would bring the ski boat, and we just spent a week on Lake Roosevelt, hiking, fishing, water skiing, and like to this day, when I'm having trouble falling asleep, like I'll picture those Lake Roosevelt trips and the times we have skiing, and within minutes I'm conked out. Like that's just the place I go to uh, in my head. You know, and then my dad actually lived on Lake Sammamish up in Washington State, and all throughout the winter, spring, summer, fall, all throughout the year, we would fish, we'd catch bullfrogs. By my dad's place, there's this big rock pile, and just to speak to the stupid stuff that young boys do when their kids out on their own. So there's this huge rock pile by my dad's house from this construction project that never amounted to everything. And then there was this hill full of bushes, and then the bushes were taller than us, and then it kind of curved down to like a little pond. Well, we would sit up on the dirt pile, and we'd send off our friends into the woods, and we'd sit there and huck rocks to see if we could hit each other. Thank goodness we never did, because that would have definitely been a trip to the hospital. But you know, stupid stuff that boys do when they're turned out on their own. So and then my folks were divorced, and so my mom, she lived on Clyde Hill, and my close friend when we were kids, they just had this ravine in their backyard. They own a bunch of property, and they had trees, they had rope swing, and so all summer long, all sorts of shenanigans down that ravine. We would race RC cars, we would climb trees, we would, yeah, all sorts of things, going on. Down in that ravine, again, young boys just being adventurous and stupid and things like that. And then, kind of towards the end of my elementary school years, really started like hiking with my grandparents. So more than just our ski trip and camp at a campground, but actually some real serious hikes. And I remember when I was in the fifth, or going from fifth to sixth grade that summer, my grandparents took me up to the Rampart Lakes for the first time up Snoqualmie Pass. And so, that was until that time the toughest hike I had done in my life. But I remember getting up there to the Rampart Lakes, just these small lakes, and I just remember the cutthroat trout swimming in these lakes, the crystal clear water. And if folks haven't been to that Alpine Lake wilderness, in the Cascade Mountains, like highly, highly recommend it. Still, one of my favorite places, favorite hikes. In my high school years, continued to hike, backpack with friends. Of course, I skied a ton because I was, doing ski school and things like that. And then I got involved in Civil Air Patrol because I wanted to go into the military after high school. And through, Civil Air Patrol, I started doing search and rescue, and actually started learning, real outdoor skills, like how to build a shelter, how to, use a compass, how to do actual land nav, how to read a map, and actually started putting a little bit of skill behind my outdoor adventures. So, it's no longer just throw on a pack and go for a hike in the woods. It was actually, plan a route, build a shelter, filter your own water and things like that. So really, really good experiences. So moving on, uh, at 17, actually, what was it? I think 10 days before I turned 18, I actually went to Marine Corps boot camp. Yeah, so that was really, really interesting. Graduating high school on a Friday, going to hang out with some friends Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday uh, night, standing on those yellow footprints, getting screamed at, as a 17-year-old kid. What's kind of interesting about that time, so that was back in 2001. So my boot camp graduation in San Diego was September 15th, 2001. Yeah, so the same week as September 11th. And that was just a crazy, crazy time to just enter the Marine Corps and have that tragedy happen that essentially changed the whole world my last week of boot camp. So anyways, that's just kind of a side note. So after that, I went to infantry training battalion. I was signed up as an 0311 rifleman. And, the training of the infantry was great. I loved it. Got to do land nav, got to shoot all sorts of weapons, learn how to patrol, essentially I think that it was like 30, 40 days of training back then. It's like just got to live outside and do cool shit. Um, just an incredible experience. For I say quote unquote 18-year-old man, but really 18-year-old boy at the time. And then I was really lucky. I got selected for a program called Yankee White, which is presidential support. So I got to go to Washington, D.C. I got to go on a couple of presidential trips, as a 19-year-old, which is kind of cool. But kind of that, living outside, adventure, kind of ended at that point for a couple of years. Because I was stationed right in Washington D.C. and I didn't have to dig like foxholes or anything like that anymore. And it was just kind of once a year you go do your rifle your evaluation and make sure you can still shoot a rifle, all that fun stuff. So, but after that whole presidential support thing was done, I went back to the infantry. Deployed to Iraq for the first time in 2004. It was definitely, to say the least, interesting deployment. Then from there, I went into intelligence and, re-enlisted for my second term. Did 2 more deployments to Iraq. Those weren't very adventuresome deployments. It was just sitting on a big air base and looking at computers for 12 hours a day. Towards the end of those deployments, you just want to gouge your eyes out because you're just so tired of looking at reports and things like that. So yeah, and during that time, I was in the Marine Corps. I'd ski and hike off and on, but it was just kind of it wasn't really incorporated into my life. It was more just like, I haven't skied in a while, so maybe we'll go to like Mammoth Mountain because I was stationed in San Diego at the time, and so it hit Mammoth Mountain a couple of times when I was stationed in San Diego, which was awesome. By the way, I was in my early 20s, still in really really good shape, and so I was able to hit all the really really fun runs and really really enjoy myself. And then, did a little hiking, around Southern California and stuff like that. But nothing, I would consider like a huge adventure that was just fulfilling to my spirit. So, 8 years in the Marine Corps. And this takes me to what I call Tucson round one. So getting out of the Marine Corps, my grandfather was actually snowbirding out here, and he's like, "Hey, you got University of Arizona out here. It's a great college. You're wanting to finish your degree." My wife, she used to be a sign language interpreter. Large deaf population out in Tucson, And so we drove out one weekend from San Diego a month before I got in the Marine Corps, and uh, met some people, found a good church, everything like that, and we're like, okay, well, in a month we'll be back. So, and in a month we were back. So, and during that time, I was doing community college because I wasn't smart enough yet to get into a 4-year school. So I was, knocking out classes here and there. I was doing some, fun like day hikes with folks around town. One of the most memorable ones that I did with a buddy, um, if people are familiar with the Catalina Mountains in Tucson, one of them is called Mount Kimball, and you can access it going up the Finger Rock Trail. If anybody has any questions about where that is, just let me know. But I will say that is an ass kicker of a hike with weight, no weight. When I was in the best shape of my life, that uh, kicked my ass. And then when I did it years later, again, when I was in the Air Force and even in better shape, it still kicked my ass. So, but it's a beautiful hike. You gain a lot of elevation, hardly any switchbacks. It's definitely one of my favorites around the Tucson area. So, I was out of the Marine Corps for about 8 months, and I started getting that military itch again. And so 2 months later, I enlisted into the Washington State Air National Guard to become a TACP. TACP stands for Tactical Air Control Party. So they're the folks that go out with the Army, coordinate all the air support. You've seen the movies, the ones the folks that go clear hot, or the harken back to first Transformers, bring the rain. No. So so I reenlisted or enlisted into the Washington Air National Guard, become a TACP, and that's when kind of like my real adventures really begin. So TACP, the bonds that I formed there, within my squadron, just will last for a lifetime. Because it was like the training was so difficult. There was just this shared suffering that we all had, but it was also a great time and a great career field. And some of the most just like memorable adventures I had, like each summer as part of our, we would do an extended, drill weekend, where we would go spend 3 days, like in the North Cascades, hiking a section of that area. And I remember my first one. So we hiked about 10 miles the first day, got to our first camp spot. And I was guessing we were like 7,000 feet up. But I remember, rolling out my sleep bag, going to sleep, and then woke up at probably like 1 or 2 a.m. in the middle of the night, just looked up at the Milky Way, and with no light pollution, the moon wasn't out, the Milky Way just looked like a white, fluffy cloud. One of the best memories of my life. And each summer we would do these 3-day hikes. Um, and load up all our packs with all our gear, radio, and uh, and just have like this 3-day adventure that we're getting paid to do. And there was also just other training opportunities. In the Marine Corps, it was really really hard to get any opportunities that do like airborne school or things like that, unless you're in a really specialized unit. But right off the bat, as a TACP, I got to go to survival school. I got to go to air assault. I got to go to airborne. I got to go to Pathfinder. It's just like It's just like, yeah, that's what we do. We send you to, to these schools because we, want you to be a better warrior. Now, during this time, I was living in Tucson, and for drill weekends, I commute up to Washington State. And so and during that time, I kind of referred to myself as a guard bum. So I wasn't really on orders a whole lot, but, I wasn't like on active duty status or anything, but I would take orders as they would come. And so like I was gone a lot. But when I wasn't on orders, I was working, different odd jobs. Like I had a contract position, with immigrations and customs enforcement for a while. Um, but one of the jobs that really motivated me to get my ass in gear and get back to the University of Arizona to finish up my degree was um, a federal corrections officer. So I was actually a federal corrections officer for 3 months here in Tucson. And probably about 2 months into it, I'm like, what the hell am I doing with my life? Like, these are the types of jobs I get to look forward to if I don't go get my degree. And so that was my motivation to, to go finish up the last 2 years of school. So it took me about 10 years to do my first 2 years of school, with all my time in the military and taking classes here or there. And then, went to school full time for like 6 months before I went back to the Air National Guard, and then, class here and there. To finish out my last 2 years of my 4-year degree, I think it took me like 14 months. I was highly motivated at that time. And so it was like I finally graduated at the ripe old age of 33 with my business degree from the University of Arizona. So so it was about 2014-ish when I really committed to go back to school, and so I kind of backburnered the Air National Guard a bit. It's basically just doing the bare minimums, what you see on the commercials as far as 1 week in a month, 2 weeks during the summer. I remember my wife said to me when I was guard bumming all the time, she's like, I thought this was one weekend a month, 2 weeks, during the summer. She's like, you seem to be gone more than when you were active duty Marine Corps. It's like, yeah. Having fun with what I do. So, but yeah, 2014, I realized I needed to really commit to my studies. And so, did that. And then in 2016, finally graduated with my degree. And, I was really on the fence about whether I'd stay in the Guard or not, stay at TACP. And so I just did a 1-year extension to think about it. And then a year later, so in 2017, fast forward a little bit, my wife is, 4 months pregnant, and I'm like, all right, I've now got 15 years in the military, and I'm like, all right, guys, I'm done. And they're like, wait, what? You're 5 years away from retirement. What are you doing? I'm just like, hey, burned out. I need like a clean break from the military so I can think some things over. And it's like after my daughter's born and everything like that, like I'm going to be back, guys. Like that was the full intention. Was to come back, but just give myself, a couple of months to think it over with no obligations whatsoever. And then fast forward 5 months, the day my daughter's born, holding her in my arms and looking at her like, no, I'm never going back. I had every intention of doing that. But yeah, just holding my child in my arms is just like, no, the military is behind me now. So at this point, we've moved from Tucson up to Washington State, and then I took a job in the Columbia River Gorge. and so we were there for 3 years. So one of the most beautiful places in the country, the Columbia River Gorge. We lived right between Mount Adams and Mount Hood. You got the Hood River, you got the Columbia, you got the Deschutes, you got the White Salmon River. Like it's a out outdoor outdoorsman's woman's paradise there. So a couple months after my daughter was born, I've been out of the military, just under a year. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go for a run. It's been a few months since I've gone for a run. And I was always a strong runner growing up in the military. So it's always really easy for me. I'm like, I'm just going to do an easy 3 miles, no big deal. So I'm down, Hood River, running along the river there, quarter mile in. I'm completely winded and my thighs are chafing. And I'm like, oh my God, like it's only a quarter mile and my thighs are chafing. Like, what the hell is going on? And, that was kind of the the start of my 3 years there, where I just kind of started feeling sorry for myself. It didn't motivate me to like, oh, I need to get my ass back in shape here. Like I'm no longer this fit in shape tac p guy. Like dad weight's a real thing. And I bring back my love of skiing. I was there for 3 years and I only skied twice. Um, and I wanted to do all these backpacking trips, but I never did. I went on a few day hikes here and there. I wanted to fish all these lakes. I don't think while I was out there, I don't think I went fishing once. Yeah, the river was right there. And thinking back on that, it's like, yeah, you were in the place you wanted to be as far as outdoor adventures, and you weren't adventuring. What the hell's with that? And it just kind of makes me think of the saying, where you go, you're there too. In that, um, yeah, you may get to the perfect place, but if you got things you haven't dealt with, whether it's, I don't know, fitness, mental discipline, procrastination, like it doesn't matter where you're at and what you want to do. So there's got to there's got to be some internal oomph to get you going, even if everything you've always wanted is right there. So yeah, so like I lived in the perfect place for outdoor adventuring. In that 3 years, I got fat and out of shape. I was having professional success and everything like that, but as far as these adventures to really satisfy my soul, all I had to do was walk out my door, and I just wasn't doing it. So um, now this, at the end of this 3 years, this brings me to what I like to affectionately call the yo-yo years. So, so in 2019, it goes Columbia River Gorge, Tucson, Spokane, Tucson. And during that time, I was finding professional success, meeting great friends, but I was not prioritizing my health, not prioritizing adventuring, just kind of doing the, okay, get ahead, go work long hours, see if you can get a jog in, come home, spend a little time with the family. But the life was just very, very compartmentalized, and there was no outdoor adventure in there. Now, getting back to Tucson after the gorge, it's not all bad. So my now new business partner, over COVID, we were next door neighbors, and got very, very close with him and his family. And so that was a great, great experience. You know, uh, Becoming so close, with somebody, through the pandemic and everything. And then, I got a transfer with the company I was working for up to Spokane. Got to, you know, get into procurement and supply chain more. And also during that time, I was able to reconnect with a really, really good TACP buddy, somebody who I lost connection with. And it was actually funny. I was watching a random YouTube video about fly fishing, and all of a sudden I hear his laugh on the video, and I'm like, no way. And then all of a sudden comes up with his cheesy grin. I'm like, oh my gosh. And, I immediately texted him like, hey, dude, it's been too long, but I'm watching this YouTube video and there you are. And lo and behold, where I was living in Spokane, where he was living, we were 3 miles away. And so we were able to reconnect. So he's the one who takes me fly fishing in Montana. So it was just really, really great to reconnect. But even when I was up in Spokane, I wanted to get back up there and quote unquote adventure again. And again, a few day hikes. I didn't ski at all that year I was up there. Just kind of worked a lot and you know. Moped a lot, like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with my life? And yeah, so like I said, wherever you go, there you're there too. So my wife, she doesn't like cold snow, so she wanted to get back to Arizona. So I took a transfer, was able to get back to where we are now, and again, finding professional success. With my 9 to 5. And we've been here, gosh, I want to say we've been here, been back 2 years now. And that, kind of first year and a half, just again, kind of professional success, great family time, everything like that, but not prioritizing my health, not prioritizing, having those outdoor adventures, so again, just kind of, stagnating. Last summer, had one of the most epic trips of my life to Montana with my buddy, where we just, fly fished for a week, caught a bunch of fish, and just had a great time, disconnected, enjoying the wilderness, enjoying Montana, being on the river, just very, very, fulfilling to my soul. And and then back to real life, you know, the daily grind with work. I'm also working on an MBA right now as well. And so that's taken up a lot of my time too, and just kind of wondering, like, okay, like, what do I want to do with my life? Do I really want to just do the corporate grind and work my way up the corporate ladder and become some corporate VP one day, if that's even a thing? And, I'm kind of looking around and it's like, I don't really want to do that. And, and so this past year or so, working remote, which is great. My weight's been bouncing around back and forth, but there really hasn't been, until a few months ago, a substantial change with that. And kind of like a hike here and there. I did get up skiing, 2 times this year. Like I told myself a couple of months ago, it's like, you know what, you bought these brand new skis over the summer. Just get the damn bindings mounted to the skis and get up to Flagstaff and go skiing. And so, yeah, just one weekend, told my wife and daughters, like, hey, we're going to Flagstaff right after work today. And and then drove around for a couple hours up in Flagstaff trying to find a ski shop that would mount my bindings, my skis at the last minute. Finally I finally found it, and gosh, that weekend, just because everything was so last minute, probably ended up just dropping a couple of grand, but I was determined to, to get a day on the hill. And then the next weekend back in Tucson, we actually got a bunch of snow on Mount Lemmon, and I was able to take my daughter skiing for the first time, which was really really special because yeah, she's the age that I started skiing for the first time. So really, really cool to take her up there, get her a lesson. And now I will say another funny story is if you're getting your kids skiing, doesn't matter how long you've skied for, get them a lesson. So I walk in to get her rental equipment. The guy behind the counter, he's like, "Yeah, you're going to want to get her a lesson." I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. I've skied for over 30 years. I got this." And we go outside. The first thing I teach her, after she gets her, boots and skis on and everything like that, is basically how to stand up. Well, 10 minutes into this, I hate skiing. This is the worst sport ever. Dad, why do you make me do this? And I'm like, ugh. So I go back into the ski hut. What time's that lesson at? And immediately they drop her off with a group lesson, and I get to go ski for 2 hours by myself, which was great. And as soon as I come back, Dad, skiing is the best thing ever. This is the best day of my life. When can we ski again? So parents out there, if you're, unless you're like professional ski instructor or something, if you're going to, don't try to teach your kids to ski for the first time and spend the money on a lesson. So, um, yeah, so I did get up skiing a couple of times. So, yeah, so, even in the past year, that adventure here and there, weight bounces around, no substantial change, working remote, doing grad school. And the thought just in the back of my head is like, am I doomed to be unhappy in my professional life, unhealthy in my personal life, and only get a sense of adventure, 2 weeks every year? Like, do I just have to lead this completely compartmentalized life where it's like miserable, unhealthy, and then I get 2 weeks of fun adventure, sometime in the summer? Like, that just has not sat well with me. So, what is different about this time? So like, and how, like, this seems relatively new. Is this just excitement? Like, it's great. You lost some weight and you're, putting some muscle back on and, quote unquote, adventuring again. What's so different about this time? Well, this time I'm just like sick and tired of all my excuses. It's just like my excuses don't do anything for me. Like, oh, this is so hard, or all, this potato chip is just so good, or it's not doing anything for me except making me momentarily comfortable, but in the long run, making me miserable. And then, in my past, I've also been kind of an all or nothing guy, like at 18. All right, let's go to the Marine Corps, best of the best. After the Marine Corps, all right, Tech P, let's do that. But as I get older, all or nothing it just doesn't work anymore. And so, it could be like, even with like diets or whatever, like, I'm going to go full keto or I'm going to go full vegan. And it's just like, you just set yourself up for failure. So I'm just like, stop, stop, stop. So instead of the sweeping changes this time, baby steps. I'm, small iterations, and so that's with my health, with my fitness, with my adventuring, with my company. It is small baby steps. Little by little, we go far. And what that means is, if you screw up on one step, you can go back and reevaluate. Whereas if you set some big, audacious, hairy goal without thinking about any of the intermediate steps, um, you fail right out of the gate, and then you're just like, well, I'm not making that goal. Whereas, you set that big, hairy, audacious goal, and you've kind of laid out a step of or a series of iterations to get there. You get halfway through, it's like, oh, that iteration didn't work out. Say I'm, trying to get in shape to climb a mountain or something. And it's like, okay, I'm at this point. Well, I'm going to try this diet. Well, that didn't work out, but I'm still in pretty good shape. So let me adjust what I'm eating now. So it's not just this catastrophic failure, with the business. Like I said, I'm doing an MBA right now through Indiana University Kelley School of Business, a great school. And the professors are wonderful, but it's like, yes, you iterate your way through the business. It's not like, oh, I got to build an Uber right now and be a gazillionaire overnight, because that's not how it happens. There is lots of steps along the way. And if you focus on those steps, when you have a failure, it's not a catastrophic failure that throws the whole, process out of whack. You can go back and reevaluate and course correct if you need to. And this is also one of the big things that's important to me. I'm making myself a little bit uncomfortable every day. There's just a problem right now, I think, with a lot of folks, is just, they're too concerned about comfort. You will never grow if you are comfortable in your personal life, your professional life, your health fitness life. And so what I mean by that is so think about how you make a sword stronger. This is an example I like to get. It's like, you want to build a nice, strong, sharp, beautiful looking sword. Well, how do you do that? You heat it up and you pound the shit out of it. You want to make it better, you add another layer, heat it up, and pound the shit out of it. That's how you make a strong, beautiful sword. So each day, I try to make myself a little bit uncomfortable. So, for instance, in my health and physical fitness, as soon as I get up, 2 minutes, cold shower. It sucks every single day. But you know what? It wakes you up better than any pot of coffee. It gets your metabolism running, heats your body up, just gets you prepped for the day. And the big thing is, it's an immediate victory to start your day. Even if you feel like crap from the night before, you stayed up too late, did too much drinking, whatever, that cold shower snaps you out of it and gives you an immediate victory to start your day with. And then, I've talked a lot about my physical fitness. So for the past 6 months, I've been running consistently. But that's all I've been doing. I hadn't been focusing on my diet. And so I was able to lose a little bit of weight, but I plateaued. But within the past few weeks, I remember something back to my military days that we used to call ins and outs. Every time you go in and out of the squadron building, you have to do some push-ups, some pull-ups, something like that. So I kind of built my own version of ins and outs. And so, my current job, I'm in a lot of meetings. And so after each meeting is done, I go outside. I do a set of push-ups. I do a set of sit-ups. I do some weighted squats, just some bicep curls, and then I do some shoulder shrugs with the weights as well. And each week I'm adding either with the weighted exercises, a little bit of weight, and then with the push-ups, just each week adding 2 more push-ups to the routine. So pushing myself before I get comfortable, because like I said, you're never going to get to where you want to be if you are comfortable. All right. And so with the business, for instance. Okay, what am I doing here that makes me uncomfortable? Well, hey, starting a podcast like this social media stuff is completely new to me. I shut down my Facebook account probably in like 2013. I've had a LinkedIn account, just because that's kind of a necessity for the business and professional world these days. But that is it. So getting out here, telling my story to everybody, like that makes me uncomfortable. And building out the social media presence and taking a step to ask people for help, what they think, about, the pictures I'm posting on Insta, the logos I've built, and then just asking for help and support from people. Like it's not something I've typically, done in the past, and so putting myself out there with this business because it's like I don't want to be stuck in corporate America. Um, my whole life. But if I am going to build this company or a company like it and break free from corporate America, I have to take some calculated risks, make myself uncomfortable in order to build this. Oh, yeah. So they kind of wrapping up, to the end here. So this is not just a journey to get folks adventuring again, but this is my journey, and it's deeply personal of stepping out, taking those calculated risks, learning from my mistakes, and reigniting. Well, I wouldn't even say my sense of adventure has always been igniting, but actually taking the steps to on that sense of adventure, to get out, to backpack, spend a night in the woods, to fly fish regularly, to ski regularly, and figure out, how to do that. And, I want to share that journey with others. I want to share the good, the bad, the ugly, because, in my physical fitness, my health, building up this company, like there's going to be mistakes along the way. And, I want to share those mistakes, with everybody who's willing to listen. So if you're someone who has an adventurous spirit, I want to do all I can to provide you the best information, equipment, and fun and interesting content I can to get you out on your adventures. Check out wildamerican.com. Right now, it's just a landing page, but it's at the bottom. It's got links to my Instagram, X, and YouTube. But on there, you can tell me about what adventures you want to do. So we can start, focusing on the adventures that are most important to people. Check out the YouTube page. The podcast will be linked there, or will be on my YouTube page, and then check out my Instagram pages, and then also feel free to provide me feedback. Like I said, this is a learning experience, a learning journey for me too. All right, so nobody gets this right off the bat. Okay, and watch me build this thing. It should be. I want to make this fun. I want to make this educational. I want to inspire people. To get out and do what they love. So, all right. I think we're going to wrap up episode 1 here. Like I said before, I'm lining up some good guests, that I think you'll like. It should be fun. We're just going to talk to them about their outdoor lives and, how they basically how they incorporated that into their everyday life. So, I think folks will like it. Provide some good information on getting you out on your next adventures. So until next time, stay wild, stay free.